Well, hello, this is Lance. Today I'm having a look at this, the Dockcase 10-in-1 Smart Dock with its real cool aesthetic. Let's check it out. I use this as a travel dock. It lives in my backpack for use with either my MacBook Pro or my iPad Pro. It works fine with both. Right out of the box, the Dockcase 10-in-1 feels premium. It's compact, fairly sleek, and clearly designed with a modern workstation in mind. The metal finish gives it a better durability, and of course the highlight, which sets it apart from everything else, is this little screen, which I'll put some power into it so that you can actually see the screen. Always a good thing. There we go. And you see there's a little display screen over here, and it shows you everything like the charge coming in, the charge going out, whether something's plugged in like an SD card or something like that, a monitor when it goes out, what sort of resolution and frame rate it's getting. So all pretty decent information. But what it'll do is it'll also tell you if one of those SD cards or something like that fails or is getting errors. It'll actually display on that there. Speaking about the info screen, it's good to show you charging rates, speeds of devices, and also, as I said, if there's any errors on your connected drives or disks. You're not just plugging in cables, you're getting real-time diagnostics, connection status, and even SSD temperature. That was the other thing I forgot. It's nerdy and I love it. Now let's talk ports. We're getting two USB-A 2 ports. That's the slow ones. One USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 port, one USB-C with 100 watt power delivery input, one USB-C 10 gigabits output, one HDMI 2.0 port. We'll get back to that spec a little later. Supports up to 4K 60 Hz, one display port 1.4A they say, which supports up to 4K 120 Hz, a gigabit Ethernet port, an SD card slot, and a micro SD card slot. And yes, it supports dual displays, perfect for Mac or Windows setups. It doesn't really matter which, as long as you have, this is one of my downsides, as long as you have a USB 3.2 Gen 2 or higher, it will obviously only output what it can, which is 10 gigabits a second. One cool touch, if your laptop reboots or the dock gets disconnected for some reason, it reconnects pretty quickly and it feels fairly reliable. Pros, solid build quality, so it does have tons of ports in a fairly compact design. The cons, no Thunderbolt. This is just USB-C 3.2 Gen 2, so only gets up to 10 gigabits throughput. You'd be able to drive a lot more of these devices at higher speeds if we could get it up to at least 48 gigabits a second or beyond. The other con is this display is probably going to be a bit of overkill for most people. General users that aren't after the aesthetic, this is probably a bit much. And then the other downside, the spec of the ports is actually conflicting. Let me show you. If you see on the back here, okay, there we go. If you see on the spec sheet there, well, the spec sheet, if you see on the specs on the back there, it actually says that the HDMI port is 2.1A. However, 2.1A is actually, according to the spec, it has refresh rates of 120 Hz in 4K and 60 Hz in 8K. Whereas if you see on the front here, let me turn that around so you can see it properly. If you see on the front here, over here, that's the HDMI port. And it actually says 8K 30. But that's not HDMI 2.1A. And it says 4K 120 on the display port. Now I know that my DisplayPort 1.4 can put out 4K at up to, with display compression obviously, up to 240 Hertz. But normally at least 144 Hertz without display compression. This 120 Hertz seems a bit odd for what they are claiming the spec is. So I've never had a problem with it, let's be clear, but HDMI 2.1a is supposed to have a maximum bandwidth of 48 gigabytes a second. There's no way that a 10 gigabytes a second USB-C port can give you the type of bandwidth that you need to drive a port like that, even if it was not mislabeled, I'm guessing, because 8K 30 Hertz is not DisplayPort 2.1a, 8K 60 Hertz is. At around 140 euros when I purchased this, the Dockcase 10-in-1 isn't cheap, but if you value the geek credibility and range of ports in a small form factor, this dock is worth it. I'd recommend it to power users that are specifically looking for this aesthetic, or somebody who's designing a futuristic desk setup, then I think that would be for them. It's not going to be for everybody. For me, I think it looks cool. And it does what I need it to do as a travel dock. Your mileage may vary. As per usual, there will be affiliate links below, for everything we've discussed. If you like this review, hit that like button, subscribe for more tech/geek stuff, and let me know in the comments, what is the #1 feature you must have in a dock station? Thank you for watching. Bye bye now.